Welcome to our deep dive into the world of event management.
Ooh, fun.
You guys sent over a ton of notes and resources, so we're going to help you sort through everything
Right.
and really pull out the most important stuff.
Definitely.
Whether you're planning something small, like a little get-together, or like a massive, huge event,
Yeah.
we're going to make sure you leave with all the essentials.
The need to knows.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
You know what's really interesting to me about event management is how many different things it involves.
right.
You have to be creative, but you also have to be super organized.
Yeah,
And you need a little bit of technical know-how to make it all work.
it's true. It's like a balancing act.
It is.
And speaking of balance, our source actually defines event management as the process of creatively applying necessary professional skills and expertise to achieve the objectives of an event.
Mm.
And they break it down into three main things: creative logistics and technical.
And it's not enough for those three things to just exist on their own.
Right.
They really have to work together.
Yeah.
You know, it's like imagine a three-legged stool.
Yeah. Okay.
If one leg is weak, the whole thing's going to fall apart.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
Yeah, and our source actually has these visuals to
right.
really drive this point home. They show different communication structures, and one of them is labeled improper, and it's just a chaotic mess.
Yeah. Well,
Everyone's talking to everyone, and it looks like a spider web that just went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Right.
It's like, who's in charge here?
Exactly. And the source points out how that kind of communication can lead to just a lot of miscommunication, and no one knows who's accountable for what.
Right. Nobody wants to take responsibility.
Right. Then they have another one labeled proper, and it's much more streamlined.
Yep.
You can see clear lines of communication within teams and to the manager.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, much
It's
better.
much easier.
So basically what we can learn from this is clear communication.
Yes.
Super important. And having a strong, diverse team
100%.
is essential.
Think about making a movie.
Okay. Yeah.
You have the writers, the director, actors, the crew.
Mm-hmm.
They all have their own jobs to do.
Yeah.
But they have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
If they want to make a good film,
Right.
you know?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about the types of events that you might be planning.
Okay.
Our source gives us 5 categories: corporate events,
Okay.
marketing events,
Hmm.
special corporate hospitality events,
Interesting.
private or personal events,
Right.
and even internet, TV, or radio-based events.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's good, though, because it helps you think about, what's the purpose of your event?
Yeah. What are you trying to do here? Are
Exactly.
you trying to boost morale with a corporate event or
Yeah.
get the word out with a marketing event?
Right. What's the goal?
Exactly.
So now you have your goal,
Okay.
but where do you even begin?
Right. Where do you start?
Well, that's where the stages of event management come in.
Oh.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Ooh, tell me more.
Because our source says there are 3 main stages:
Okay.
pre-event, event execution,
Mm-hmm.
and post-event.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing.
What?
They estimate that about 55% of the work happens before the event even starts.
Really?
Yeah,
So most of the work is in the planning.
it's all about the planning. It's
Wow.
not just about filling out paperwork. It's
Okay.
the foundation for a smooth and successful event.
Okay, I get it. Planning is key.
Planning is key.
Got it.
So let's talk about pre-event planning, because the source goes deep and gives us 15 steps to guide us.
15.
15.
Wow.
Some of them are pretty standard, but there are a few that really stood out to me.
Okay, like what?
So step 3 is all about defining your target audience.
Oh, that's important.
Right. And they use these fun categories like followers, fans, spies, onlookers, and even VIPs.
That's fun.
It is fun. But it's also really important to think about, who are you trying to reach with this event?
Right. Are you talking to people who already love what you do?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to win over some new people?
Exactly. And how do you tailor your approach based on who's going to be there?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's step 4, which is all about the venue.
Okay.
And what I thought was interesting is they separate traditional venues like banquet halls and conference rooms from non-traditional venues like a rooftop or a museum.
Ooh, a museum. That would be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a chance to get creative.
Totally.
I once helped organize a conference in an old airplane hangar.
Oh, wow.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
But you do have to keep in mind that choosing a non-traditional venue sometimes comes with its own set of challenges. Like what?
Like a limited access or noise restrictions, things like that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Definitely.
Now, another step that I think is super important is step 7, budgeting.
Oh, the dreaded budget.
I know. The source talks about 2 different models,
Okay.
open and closed budgets.
I'm not really sure what the difference is.
Yeah. Can you explain that?
Sure. So an open budget basically means you don't have a fixed amount of money to work with.
Okay.
You're trying to get the best possible outcome, and you adjust your spending as you go.
Okay.
It gives you more flexibility, but it can be a little risky if you're not careful.
Right.
A closed budget, on the other hand, means you have a set amount of money, and you have to stick to it no matter what.
Okay.
It takes more discipline up front, but it can help you stay on track financially.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So if our listener is working with a tight budget, maybe a closed model would be better.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Now, before we move on to some of the other pre-event steps, I want to jump ahead to something that I found really interesting.
Okay.
It's step 11, which is all about your publicity strategy.
Oh, right. Getting the word out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source really emphasizes tailoring your approach. And they give us this huge list of advertising options.
Like what?
Everything from print and broadcast to all the online platforms.
That you have to be everywhere these days.
It's true. You have to go where your audience is.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't promote a tech conference the same way you'd promote a children's book festival, right?
Definitely not.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, another pre-event step that I think is super important is step 12.
What's that?
Partners and sponsors.
Oh, yeah. How do you even get those?
That's what I've always wondered.
You too.
The source actually breaks it down into different types of support,
Oh, cool.
like sole sponsorship franchising and even free will or moral support.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and they give some tips on how to approach potential partners.
What are they?
Well, one of the most important things is to clearly explain the value that you're offering.
Right.
Like what's in it for them.
Yeah, what are they getting out of this?
Right. How will their brand benefit from being associated with your event?
Right. Make it a win-win.
Exactly. So we've covered some of the key pre-event steps,
Yeah.
but there's still so much more to talk about.
Yeah, right.
I'm really curious about the execution phase, like what happens when all that planning actually comes to life.
Me too. That's the fun part.
But before we get into that, let's take a quick break and come back to explore those exciting steps.
Sounds good.
Okay, see you soon.
See ya.
All right, so we're back
Back at it.
and ready to dive into the event itself.
The main event.
Yeah, all that pre-planning is super important, but seeing it all come together,
Yeah.
there's something really exciting about that.
It's so rewarding.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. But it can also be pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I always say that no matter how much you prepare,
Yeah.
there's always a little bit of
Yeah.
controlled chaos during the actual event.
I like that controlled chaos.
Right.
Yeah. So let's look at how the source guides us through the execution phase.
Okay.
Starting with step 16, the checklist.
The checklist.
It seems pretty straightforward, but...
Well, you might think it's just about making sure you have enough chairs and tables.
Right.
But it's way more than that.
Like
It's about confirming every single detail.
what kind of details?
I mean, everything from the catering and the AV equipment to safety protocols and emergency contacts.
Wow.
It's all about eliminating any surprises on the big day.
That's a good point. You don't want any surprises.
No, you don't.
Okay, so speaking of details, step 17 is about courtesy visits and appearances.
Oh, interesting.
I've never really thought about that before in an event.
It might seem like a small thing,
Yeah.
but it can make a big difference,
Okay.
especially if you're trying to, build relationships with the community.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. If you're hosting a conference, it would be smart to reach out to some local business leaders.
Right.
Or maybe make an appearance at another event that's related to yours.
Oh, I get it.
It's a way to get your name out there
Mhm.
and show people that you're invested in the community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all about building those connections.
It's networking.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to step 18, setting up and doing a sound check.
Oh, this is a big one,
I know. I can imagine this can be pretty stressful.
especially for a large event.
Yeah. What are some of the things that can go wrong here?
Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe some of the things I've seen.
Like what?
I mean, everything from a power outage to a misplaced microphone.
Oh.
It can really throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for the technical team to get there early, have a clear plan, and do a very thorough sound check.
So basically, expect the unexpected and be prepared to adapt.
Exact.
Okay. And right before the doors open, there's something the source calls a roll call.
A roll call.
Step 19.
Okay.
Is that like taking attendance for your team?
It's kind of like that,
Okay.
but it's more about making sure that everybody is on the same page.
Oh, okay.
You gather the whole team,
Yeah.
you go over the schedule one last time,
Mm-hmm.
make sure everybody knows their roles and responsibilities,
Yeah.
and answer any last-minute questions.
It's like the final huddle before the game.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay. Then comes the moment of truth, step 20, guests and audience arrivals.
Oh, yeah.
This has got to be a mix of emotions for an event manager.
Absolutely.
Excitement relief, maybe a little anxiety.
It's like all your hard work has led up to this moment.
Right.
But it's also important to remember that you can't control everything.
Yeah, that's true.
There might be traffic. Someone might forget their ticket.
The weather could be bad.
Yeah, you just never know.
It's about staying calm and adaptable.
100%.
And that brings us to step 21, showtime.
It's showtime.
This is where adaptability really comes into play.
Yeah, because even with the best planning, things can still go wrong.
Right.
The key is to be able to think on your feet and come up with creative solutions.
So, like, if the keynote speaker gets sick, you need a backup plan.
Exactly.
Or if the catering is late, you have to figure out how to keep the guests happy.
Right. It's all about problem solving in real time.
That's a good skill to have.
It is, and it's one of the things that separates a good event manager from a great one.
Okay, I like that. Now, while everyone's enjoying the event, it's also important to capture those moments.
Yes.
And that's where step 22 comes in professional photo and video coverage.
Oh, definitely got to have that.
Why is that so important?
Well, for starters, it's a great way to document the event and create some lasting memories.
Hmm.
But it's also super important for marketing and promotion.
Okay, right?
You can use those photos and videos on your website, on social media,
Mhm.
even in press releases.
I see.
It's all about showing off how successful your event was
Yeah,
and building your brand.
it's good for sponsors, too.
Oh, yeah. Sponsors love that.
They want to see their name out there.
Exactly.
All right. Now, once the event is over, there's the less glamorous but equally important task of dismantling and departure.
Step 23.
What are some of the key things to keep in mind here?
Well, safety first. You need to make sure everyone gets out of there safely and that all the equipment is packed up and transported securely.
Right.
And then there's the matter of leaving the venue in good condition.
Yes.
Whether it's a hotel ballroom or a park, you want to make sure you leave it clean and tidy.
It's about being respectful.
Exactly.
Okay. And speaking of responsibility, the post-event phase is all about evaluating what worked well and what could be improved.
Yeah, always room for improvement.
But before we get to that, there's something else that caught my eye. Step 24, the after party.
The after party.
I like this step.
Who doesn't love a good party?
Right.
But it's more than just a celebration.
Right.
It's a chance to debrief with your team in a more relaxed setting.
I see.
You can get their feedback, share stories, acknowledge everyone's hard work.
Oh, that's good.
It's a chance to celebrate your successes and bond as a team.
Okay, I'm sold on the after party.
Good.
Now let's get into the more formal evaluation process.
Mm.
Step 25 is about gathering feedback.
Okay.
Using an event evaluation form.
So what kind of questions should you be asking? Well, depends on the type of event and your goals.
Right.
But generally, you want to ask about the overall experience, the content, the venue, the logistics, and any areas for improvement.
Okay.
You can use different methods to gather this feedback, like email surveys, online polls, or even just paper forms.
Whatever works best.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got all this feedback from people.
Yeah. What do we do with it?
Well, the source recommends having an evaluation meeting.
Okay.
Step 26 to really dig into the results.
Oh, yeah. You got to analyze that data.
Exactly.
You do this a lot.
Yeah, after every event.
Okay.
I mean, it's tempting to just pack everything up and move on.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so important to take the time to reflect and learn from each experience.
I agree.
It's like taking the pulse of your event,
I like that.
Yeah.
Figuring
out what worked, what didn't work, what people liked, what they didn't like.
Yeah. What you can do better next time.
Exactly. And our source breaks this evaluation process down into two parts.
Okay.
Strategy and report. So the strategy phase is all about collecting that feedback.
Right. We talked about that.
Yeah. And then the report phase is about organizing it into a usable document.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And they even give us a template for an event report.
Oh, cool.
It covers everything from your objectives and outcomes to challenges and lessons learned.
It's like a blueprint for future events.
It is. You're building on your successes and learning from your mistakes.
Makes sense.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to touch on a couple more steps that focus on the team itself.
Okay, your team.
Step 27 is about payoffs,
Payoffs.
making sure everyone gets paid fairly and on time.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
It seems obvious, but why do you think the source calls this out specifically?
Well, I think it's because it's easy to overlook this part.
Right.
in the craziness of planning an event. But it's so important to remember that your team worked really hard.
They did.
And making sure they get paid properly and on time shows that you respect them.
Right.
It builds trust and makes them want to work with you again.
It's about valuing their contribution.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally, step 28, exits.
Exits.
It sounds simple.
Yeah, everyone goes home.
But I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
There is. It's not just about everyone leaving. It's about leaving in an organized and efficient way.
Oh, okay.
Think about a big conference with hundreds of people all trying to leave at the same time.
Oh, yeah. That could be chaotic.
It can be.
Yeah.
A good event manager makes sure everything flows smoothly,
Mm-hmm.
manages transportation, and makes sure that any leftover materials or equipment are taken care of.
It's like the final touch.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into event management, what are some key things you want our listener to take away?
Well, I hope they've gained a better understanding of just how much goes into event management.
Yeah.
It's not just about throwing a party.
Right.
It's about planning, problem solving, building a strong team,
Yeah.
paying attention to the details,
Yeah.
but also being flexible when things go wrong.
Right.
And most importantly, it's about creating an experience,
An experience.
something that people will remember long after the event is over.
You know, going through all these steps with you,
Yeah.
I'm really struck by how much of event management is about people.
It is.
It's about building those relationships with your team, your vendors, your sponsors, and your audience.
Absolutely.
It's about connecting with people.
And creating something memorable together.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought for our listeners to consider.
Ooh, I like this part.
As you plan your next event, think about the impact you want to make. What story do you want to tell?
Yeah.
What emotions do you want people to feel?
That's good, Big.
How can you leave a lasting impression on your audience?
I love that.
Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. So there you have it, your deep dive into event management.
We did it.
Remember, plan meticulously,
Yes.
stay adaptable,
100%.
and never underestimate the power of human connection.
So true.
Until next time, happy planning.
Bye, everyone.